Everybody, back to this what if video. Sorry about the way I sound. I am just sick, so there's the reason why I couldn't post, because I am sick, and yeah, I hope I get better though. So yeah, this is what if, no, this is what if Jordan, don't even know the series name. Yeah, this is the Ruby what if that I'm going to do. So hope you like, subscribe, don't forget to comment, and we'll get into this now. Bye. So, we begin obviously. Everything in Beacon is still the same as the original canon. John is obviously the leader of his own team, even though he's quite young, same age as Ruby, same height as a Ruby, and he's less experienced. He's the leader, obviously, of Pyrenicos, Nora, Valkyrie, and Ren. And Ruby, obviously, the young, also a leader, very young, John's age, his height, is the leader of her sister, Yang, her friend, Rice, and Blake Belladonna. Same thing as in canon, they both get two different dorms as they all take a night. Now, the way that John interacts with his friend or team is more different than in canon. Instead of Pyrrha being a love interest, Pyrrha is more of a mother figure to John, as he sees Nora, John sees Nora as a sister, and he just sees Ren as an actual brother. So yeah, John's John obviously is gonna have help from his team because he's not the perfect leader. No one will ever be the perfect leader. And yeah, so everything goes as in canon. Obviously, they wake up the next day with Peter waking up John and telling him to get dressed while they all get dressed. Obviously, boys are separate, gets dressed in another room, and the girls gets dressed in the main room. Not much different there. And they all head to class. They all go through their classes, dust class, obviously with, gosh, I don't know any of the staff members by name. I know Goodwitch is one of the teachers. Gosh, the guy that tells a whole lot of boring stories, and that guy that drinks a lot of coffee. A lot. There's also a dust teacher, which is a furnace. I'm still trying to remember her name. But yeah, obviously they go to class. They're obviously in. They obviously. The bell rings to signify their break and heads to the school cafeteria, which is near the hall, catching up with Team Ruby when they get there. Obviously, Team Ruby sits down next to them and introduces themselves to John's team. Ruby introduces her own team, Yang, obviously her sister, Weiss, Schnee, and Blake Belladonna. John introduces himself and his team, obviously with their interesting personalities. Yeah, that's a good word to use. And their interesting personalities. So yeah, obviously they talk for a bit. They talk about things, throwing ideas around of plan strategy, and this is mostly Ruby and John talking. The other teams are talking to each other in the background, but it's mostly their talks. So John and Ruby are bouncing ideas about team strategy and formation between each other, and even joint training and how ways to train and get stronger. Also jumping between weapons, training and plan and strategizing. Yeah, none of their team could even keep up with the conversation they were having. It was a conversation only 13 to 14-year-olds could have. And that was a strategy to defend against a lot of enemies that wish to slit your throat, an idea of an idea or plans or blueprints of weapons, guns, and even even shot even dust with bullets that can literally put a hole in anything and can be extremely dangerous if not used properly. And uh, and training regimens that can even make the strongest and oldest hunters fear. Yeah, I can tell you now, only 13 and 14-year-olds can be speaking of those. However, the other team was speaking about more generic things, like what they like, what do they do for a living, how's their family. While the mention of the mention of their family, and then Weiss went into a tire charade about the schnees and policies of the schnee, and then got deliberately knocked down a peg or two by Blake herself, stating how the schnees use illegal labor from the foreigners with illegal contracts that is not really orthodox. Yeah, that took the wind out of the ice cream's sails, let's just say. Obviously, the day didn't end there. Obviously, the day didn't end there because the day, or the school day, ended on the final class training, or training class, combat class. In this case, with Professor Port. I think that's his name, with Professor Pork or Port. With Professor Port. This man, or this hunter, was extremely big. Let's just say that. He was big, and he tells one of the most boring stories of your entire existence that has been exaggerated 300 times over in this man's head, as he's finishing another boring version of his story in a lecture, and asks the following question. So tell me, children, who here thinks they embody the traits of a huntsman or a hunter? Hmm? Fearless, courageous, quick thinking, quick, quick, fearless, courageous, quick thinking, unyielding, iron-willed, brave warriors that will fight against anything, even their own nightmares. Who thinks they embody these very traits of a huntsman to protect and defend the innocent against monsters like the grim? As John hears this, as he was about to raise his hand, but someone beat him to it. Ah, why, Schnee, I believe you think you embody these traits of a huntsman. As Vaishni states, she does, with utmost confidence, while Team Ruby cheers Vaishni on. Ruby obviously on the other side cheering Vaishni on and saying that she can do this. However, Vaishni not feeling Ruby's enthusiasm and wishes to focus. Vaishni gets her weapons and comes back to class with her weapons and rapier that's also filled with dust. She obviously enters the main stage and waits. Professor Port is on the other side of the classroom that's also been fortified and is preparing the opponent. A cage that is rattling and growling every few seconds. As Port screams on the top of his lungs the traits and beliefs of a huntsman, and that you must be prepared for anything and everything. As he yells begin, swinging his shotgun hammer down, or should I say his musket hammer, right down onto the rope that kept whatever thing contained. And he jumps back and watches. A, gosh, what was this thing called? Gosh, this Grim, okay, this Grim has a specific name, I just can't think of it. Here's the thing, okay, it's a boar Grim. Boar Grim with two tusks on the side of its face as it rushes down the hallway once it spots White. Ruby obviously is giving White advice while yelling back to her. Ruby yells, aim for its underbelly. You need to get it open. Be careful, if it charges, it's gonna knock you down. As Weiss is already getting annoyed, she can't focus while listening to Ruby. Her leader has good intentions, but it's right now distracting. As everyone watches these events happen. The events where Weiss finally gets irritated with the Grim and takes her eyes off it, just to focus on Ruby, telling her to be quiet, then getting knocked down by the Grim, losing her rapier, and nearly getting trampled by it, grabbing her rapier again with a sliver of luck, using some of her ice dust to get the beast above her. As the beast is in the air, it has no way to dodge, and she finishes it off with the underbelly, killing the Grim completely. And that only took at least 56 minutes, close to an hour. As Port gives a smile, but obviously that smile's forced, congratulating Weiss and stating that she should never take her eyes off an opponent, even if her leader is trying to give her an advantage by telling the thing's weak spots. Always focus on your target. Remember that, Vaishni. As obviously the day is over and Weiss storms out. And this is this exact scene in canon with Weiss and Ruby as John and the others see how Weiss storms out. As John says, I guess Ruby's not having that much of an easy time with their team. As John states, I'm actually quite happy my team has quite a happy relationship with each other. I don't want my team to end up like that. As John, obviously, with his team heads back to their dorm, leaving Ruby and their team to sort things out for themselves. John can't tell Ruby or babysit Ruby on what to do with her team. She needs to solve that problem on her own. John has his own team to worry about as well. Somewhere in the dark night of Beacon, John is training on the roof. John discovered his semblance is most at its strongest at night, in the shadows, in the dark, in the infinite darkness that exists in the night, John's quirk, or no, not quirk, John's semblance is most strongest. And he's also discovered that his semblance can do more than just speed himself up. I mean, he's discovered that long, long time ago. He just wants to know what else can it do. As busy laying around the rooftop or laying in specific areas that has a lot of shadows are grim. Grim that has the fur that reflects the universe itself. However, their eyes reflects the solar panel source of 1,000 stars. They are very mythical creatures, these new type of Grimm, and some of them are more armored than the others. There are more than 6 beowulfs on the roof. Another pack got defeated by him and his team of beowulfs quite easily, and they are relatively new. You can tell because they don't sit still. However, the others sit still and just watch. John is learning his new abilities. He's just discovered how he can use the energy that he emits with his semblance and make it solid. As he is holding a pitch black cube in his hand while trying to squash it. As John has also discovered that this is highly volatile. Well, highly volatile to everything, even the wind itself. So long as he prevents it from imploding, this matter from imploding on itself, it will not explode. I mean, he is working with antimatter after all. Yes, that's what John has decided to call this unknown material that he's using, antimatter, or in his case, dark matter. Now, if you don't know the story between dark matter is simply matter, but the opposite of matter itself. So you have matter and then you have matter, non-matter, obviously. It's like positive and negative. They both react differently to each other when they come in contact with each other. Dark matter acts like non-matter, but instead of imploding on everything when it touches matter itself, it has a different effect. It acts like matter, but everything that it happens to it is the opposite. So, where items could be, where items that should be cold are warm, and where items that should be warm are cold. Black matter fire is cold. However, black matter crystals or ice is warm. As you can see, a lot of different things. Black black matter fire is the only fire that can cause frostbite. However, black matter ice is the only matter that can cause heat stroke. You see where I'm getting at now? Different effects, different matter, opposite things. This is quite cool because his semblance is more unique than Ruby's than he thought, because yeah, Ruby has the same speed ability that Joan has. He doesn't have the same semblance he has. As Joan is twirling his scythe in his hand while it's glowing an ethereal black, he's found a way to sharpen his scythe. He's found a way to sharpen it extremely sharp. And basically he is using a matter that doesn't abide by the matter laws. So this, yeah, is found a technique that is actually deadly. As he spins the sight in his hands, someone opens the door. As the door slides open and John stops. As John also has a mask on, and this mask is a grim mask. As John slowly turns around and looks at the person that just opened the door. He thought he locked that door. I guess he didn't lock it. And now he's going to pay for it. The person standing beyond the door is Ruby. Oh shit. As Ruby sees what's happening and only starts realizing. As she was about to run, but then gets grabbed by a hook and then gets pulled over. As she stifles a scream, all you hear is just a yelp and the door closing behind Ruby. As Ruby gets dragged over to John, as John is like, shh, 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 stay quiet, as the Grim that saw Ruby all stood up and now are circling John. As Ruby is trying to reach her weapon, but she can't. As John is like, shh, don't worry, Ruby, Ruby. As John takes off his mask, showing Ruby, it's me. They're allies. Calm down. As Ruby starts slowing her breath and calming down. Okay, good. You're good? As Ruby says, yes, yes, and what's happening here? It's my semblance. Your semblance. Yeah, as John says, because it's the only excuse he can use at the moment. As Ruby wants to run down to Osmond now and start asking questions, as she rather asks John these questions because John is holding, well, she can't escape, and even if she does escape, she's gonna have to fight her way out. And plus, it's John, how bad can it be? As John explains to her his power. So, whatever Grim kill, you have the chance or the ability to bring them back under your control. Am I getting things straight here? Yes. And also, your semblance is not a speed semblance, but a matter semblance. Yes, that is the opposite of matter. Yes. Aha. As Ruby starts nodding. As Ruby says, wait, don't we have the same semblance though? As Joan states, I think so. I'm not sure about your semblance, but it does make petals from nowhere, so it's kind of similar. As Ruby starts basically getting excited, as she asks John, can you teach me? Can you teach me? Can you teach me? As John's like, okay, I can teach you what I know. I mean, I've only had the semblance for a few days, but I can teach you what I know. As Ruby starts hugging John, as she says, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, as John's like, you're welcome, Ruby. I mean, what are friends for? As then John and Ruby begin their training on the roof every night, learning about Ruby's semblance, which is the opposite of John's. John's semblance is matter, but is basically the opposite of matter. Ruby's semblance is matter itself. Ruby can create matter objects, but they will always take the color of red or black, one of the two. Ruby can make Ruby can literally make a red and black cube from basically her own petals. She can also split that cube into different objects, such as a long pole, a long triangle, etc., etc. The bigger the shape, the more the energy, the the more faster she gets tired. John has also discovered this, and also can make objects with his semblance. Yeah, Ruby and John's semblance are very unique, very similar, and very different at the same time. Ruby even tried to make fire, which actually worked, surprising John, as when John made fire, instead of it was fire that burned, it was fire that froze. And his fire was black, obviously. It was black and purple. However, Ruby's fire was red and orange. Yeah, so that was their training. But now we're gonna go into the deeper arcs of things. So, hold up guys, give me a minute. We're gonna go deeper into the arc of Ruby now. Ruby, yeah, Team Ruby is now in a bit of a pickle. Team Ruby with Team John are busy searching for Blake. Blake went AWOL while spilling the beans about the faunus or the White Fang, and that she once was a part of the White Fang, and now she went AWOL. Obviously, Ruby and Team John are looking for her now. Ruby and John are obviously zipping through the city, left, right and center, searching for them, while their team are following behind. Obviously, Weiss is still, you can say moody about it. Let's just say that, yeah, moody about it, and wants to get confirmation by Blake if she left the organization. Uh-huh. So they are looking for Blake. Blake is obviously not going to be easily found because she is busy wandering with a monkey faunus. Yes, she is busy wandering around town with a monkey faunus. That's where Blake is. As Blake is now heading to, gosh, I forgot. I'm trying to think of the name. The ship, the dock, the ship deck, or the ship docking area. As she heard that there was a bunch of foreigners doing illegal things that side. Obviously finding the foreigners, and she's seeing them, and also seeing them how are they working with this human. She tries to talk to them, ask them why they are even working with this human. Obviously, uh, Torchwig, as we all know him, states that they have a mutual agreement. Obviously, Blake doesn't believe this, and Torchwick tells them to dispose of her quickly and that they need to get this stuff finished now. Obviously, the fauna starts opening fire on Blake, and Blake has to dodge and run, while combating faunuses, knocking them out of course, knocking them out. But yes, that is what Blake is doing. Gunshots got the signal of both John and Ruby, and now are heading to their location, also telling the other team to move to the dock side. The first two to make it there are John and Ruby. John and Ruby has learned a few things about their semblances. Like most of all, both of their semblances are opposites, but they still can work in tandem together. Like for instance, as John appears in front of Torchwood, which was appears and basically knocks back Torchwick when he was about to finish Blake, and uses a weird unknown ability, which is obviously his semblance, to teleport Ruby towards him. As Ruby combines a counter-attack with the teleportation. As Torchwick gets whacked by at least one scythe, and then another black scythe, and then sees the two children. It's you. It's that. So, it's you two. Red and violet. Right? There's Jones like, yeah. So, I don't have time for children, so I'm gonna have to finish you quickly. As he pops open his cane and starts firing his attacks. As Ruby and Blake work together to combat Torchwick, as Ruby and John work together to fight Torchwick, pushing him back. Obviously the rest of the team comes and starts hammering against the White Fang. In the end, obviously, Weiss and Blake makes up, and Blake is back with her team, until the cops arrive. Penny obviously was there, but she didn't need to interfere, because the team, or Ruby and John's team, had it under control. Very little, and I mean very, very little property damage. So they weren't that badly off. But they were still scolded trying to stop a bunch of white fans. And so this arc is over. Okay, sorry if I took a bit long there. I thought I put this on pause, but I didn't. So yeah. So I don't know if I'm gonna stop here now. I'm gonna go a little longer, and yes, let's cut into Ruby and John's training on their semblance and how it is going. Ruby and John are fighting on the roof with multiple Grimm around them. John's Grimm pack has increased to at least 9 Grimm. The three oldest Grimm are armored from head to toe and quite bigger and faster than the others. They also have a unique effect where they place this entire barrier over every single Grimm that are nearby. And what I mean by a barrier, I mean a shadow barrier. The barrier isn't big enough, but it's big enough to cover this entire roof. And it keeps everyone from basically seeing them training. or seeing the grim. It's basically like an illusion. An illusion barrier. You can see outside, but you can't see inside. What you see inside is nothing, but what you see outside you is normal. So it's basically a one-way mirror. They see their reflection, however you see them. Ah, so as obviously Ruby and John's training goes, Ruby has discovered a few other new interesting effects. She doesn't really need dust to pull off some of the abilities her Semblance can use because she can just mimic the effect. If she wants fire, she can mimic fire, and her Semblance will respond. If she wants water, her Semblance will mimic water, and obviously it will respond as water. If she wants wind, it will mimic wind, and it will respond as wind, etc., etc. The more higher the element she wants to mimic, the more harder the effect, or the more harder it is to control. She wants to use the effect of gravity, well, she doesn't have the control for it. She wants to mimic the effect of dust, she has enough control to make the water frozen, so she can. Lava, she needs to heat up the rock, which is quite easy, and etc., etc. John can do the same, but he needs to do everything the opposite. He wants to create fire, he needs to think of ice. He wants to create lava, he needs to think obviously of liquid ice. Everything is the opposite with John's Semblance. If Ruby's Semblance is straightforward, John's Semblance is the opposite of straightforward, which is confusing, but also still powerful in its own right. John's Semblance also has a unique effect of slowing down time when being used, and that is how John uses his Speed Semblance as well. Well, it's an upgraded version of his Speed Semblance to slow down time. It's not like Osborn's slowing down time thing, it only works on himself. Osborn's able to slow down time for an entire vicinity. However, John, he can only slow down time for himself. So yeah. Jones also learned how to extend his scythe's range using his semblance and the matter he can make. Jonas also discovered how to make armor out of his matter. So can Ruby do all this? Yes. And Ruby's also discovered how to make herself faster while her semblance is mimicking lightning. So all unique effects here. So now I'm gonna stop this video because I feel like I'm getting worse. Yeah, I'm getting worse, so I'm gonna stop this video before I get more sick. If you like this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and that notification bell. And I'll see you in the next video, which will probably take a while. Maybe I might be better next time. So don't forget guys, hit the notification bell and like. For me, I need to reach 1k subscribers because that's our goal. Our goal is 1k subscribers at the end of this year. If we do, I will make a 1k subscriber special. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for even watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and bye. Ta-ta.